You ever hear the sound of engines echo through a mountain valley? Real deep, real mean, like thunder you can't outrun? That's how it started for me. 3 Harley-Davidsons tore up the quiet outside. My cabin, my cousins riding in like some cavalry straight out of a Clint Eastwood flick. And right there, in the headlights, 3 so-called HOA security guards froze halfway up my driveway, clutching their clipboards like they might shield them from what was coming. Yeah, that happened. From my porch, coffee in hand, I watched those grown men turn and bolt for their SUV before my cousins even had a chance to kill their engines. I'll never forget the sound of those tires squealing down the hill. Honestly, it was the sweetest music I'd heard in weeks. Karen, queen of the HOA, and self-declared keeper of neighborhood order, was left standing in the gravel looking like she'd just seen a ghost army roll up. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands. Who she was calling? I couldn't say, but I knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. Let me back up a sec. You gotta know what led to this little showdown. 3 months before, I moved into my late Uncle Ray's old cabin. In Pinewood Valley, quiet place, nothing but trees, lakes, and folks who mostly kept to themselves. I figured I'd fix the place up, maybe find a little peace, but man, I should have known better. The day after I moved in, Karen Reynolds showed up, clipboard, bright blue suit, smile that didn't reach her eyes. She handed me a rule book thicker than my Bible. No dogs without registration. No unlicensed vehicles. Can't even have the wrong curtains in your window. I tried to laugh it off. My uncle's cabin was here before any HOA ever dreamed up these rules. But Karen made it her life's work to remind me I was out of compliance. Notes on my door. Letters stuffed in my mailbox, all stamped official. Complaints about my dog, Bruno, a golden lab with better manners than half the neighborhood. She even said my guitar playing on the porch counted as excessive noise. That's when I realized this wasn't about peace. It was about control. It got worse. One morning I caught 2 guys poking around the shed, snapping pictures, flashing fake badges that looked like they came out of a cereal box. HOA security. They said, property compliance. I told them to scram or I'd call the county sheriff. They left, but not before promising I'd regret this. So, I did what any sane person does. I called family. My cousin Jake, ex-Army, promised he'd be there next weekend. Karen noticed the shift. Next thing I know, more letters, bigger threats. She claimed my place didn't fit the neighborhood aesthetic, might even devalue property. I let it slide. Kept fixing the roof, making the cabin home again, but I kept every piece of paper she sent. My uncle always said, you don't wrestle with pigs. You both get muddy and the pig likes it. Turns out, he was right. Then one morning, the sound of car doors slammed me awake. Karen was back. Clipboard, sunglasses, lips pressed thin as a razor. Same 3 security guys, now in black jackets with HOA logos. She announced an inspection. I'd had enough. You're trespassing, I said. This cabin's outside your little kingdom. She smirked. We'll see about that. That's when I heard the engines, real thunder this time. My cousins coming up the hill. Jake, Tyler, and Big Mike, army patches, leather jackets, boots stomping gravel like they owned it. The HOA men went pale, then ran for their SUV. Karen, though, she just stood there, shaking, trying to keep her queen act together. We all ended up on the porch that night, stories and laughter mixing with the smell of pine and smoke. It was the first time in weeks I felt safe, until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. This is Deputy Lewis, Pine County Sheriff. I got a complaint about a disturbance, armed individuals. Threats made. I explained. He said he'd stop by. Next morning, he did just that. I handed him the mountain of paperwork Karen left. He shook his head. There's no HOA jurisdiction up here. Your uncle's land sits outside the boundary line. Turns out, Karen had been bluffing. But he warned me. She's not giving up. Keep your paperwork ready. A day later, a big yellow sign showed up. Nailed to my fence, HOA violation pending legal review. Jake said, that's vandalism. Want me to handle it? I just took photos, documenting everything. Paperwork beats power trips, he said. And he was right, but Karen wasn't done. One rainy night, 3 black SUVs pulled up, Karen at the front with her clipboard and a small army of hired muscle. She pounded on the door, demanding I vacate community property or face removal. My cousins and I stood our ground, called her bluff. But then came the cavalry. Jake's army buddies arrived, Harleys roaring. The security team bailed, slipping and stumbling through the mud, leaving Karen standing alone in the rain. "You'll regret this," she screamed, her suit plastered to her like a second skin. Not long after, Karen forged official-looking documents, broke into my house to deliver them, even started posting my name and photos of my cousin's bikes on the community page, called us dangerous outsiders. She was obsessed, escalating every move until she finally broke the law one too many times. With every fake notice, every late-night patrol, every slanderous post, she dug her own hole a little deeper. The twist? Turns out Karen wasn't working alone. Her own sister, Emily, came to me late one night, terrified. The HOA board wanted your lakefront for a new rec zone. They used Karen to do their dirty work. Karen was the face, but the real danger was the people behind her, planning, scheming, willing to break laws just to get their way. It all came to a head one stormy night. Karen showed up with a crew, intent on forcing me out. But this time, Deputy Lewis arrived with a warrant, arrested Karen for trespassing, forgery, and violating a court order. The look on her face as she was led away in cuffs? That was the kind of justice that makes the air feel lighter, like a storm finally breaking. You might think it ended there, but you'd be wrong. Karen's board tried to pick up where she left off. Legal threats, rezoning petitions, even tailing us around town. But my uncle left me more than a cabin. He left proof. An old county agreement, signed and sealed, exempting this land from any HOA power grab. When we handed it over to the county, the board's plot unraveled. So now, I sit on my porch with Bruno asleep at my feet and the smell of rain on the pines, thinking about how fast a quiet life can spin out of control and how you never really know what your neighbors are capable of until power's on the line. But you know what? I'm still here. And this cabin, this land, is still ours. And maybe that's how real justice works. Quiet, persistent, built on truth, not power. I guess the only question left is, if it happened to you, would you stand your ground or back down? Tell me, where do you draw your line? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about justice, power, and what home really means that you'd think after all. That, the arrest, the paperwork, the rain-soaked showdown in front of the whole county, that things would settle down, that maybe Pinewood Valley could finally catch its breath. For a minute there, I almost believed it myself. The next few mornings, the sun came up clean and gold over the pines. My cousins were polishing chrome on their bikes instead of prepping for battle, and Bruno was chasing squirrels along the lake like he'd never heard a harsh word in his life. But peace in a place like this? It's like mist. You reach for it, and it slips through your fingers. I knew Karen Reynolds wasn't finished, even in cuffs. Even after the whole town saw her get dragged off with mascara running and her clipboard hanging by a single corner. Folks started coming up to me at the diner, old-timers who'd never given me a second look before, shaking my hand, telling me, "It's about time someone put her in her place." I appreciated it, don't get me wrong. But there was always this itch at the back of my neck, like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then it happened. A plain envelope, no return address, just my name scrawled careful on the front, showed up wedged under my mailbox. Inside, one line, printed bold. "You think this ends with me? Think again." That's it. No signature, nothing. Tyler wanted to laugh it off. But Jake and Big Mike didn't. "She's got friends," Mike said, real low, like he didn't want the Pines to hear. She always did. And just like that, the quiet slipped away again. One night, close to midnight, Bruno started growling at the window. Ears up, tail stiff. I peeked outside and caught the flash of headlights at the far end of the drive, just idling, someone watching the house. Not Karen's car, but someone else. They sat out there for maybe 20 minutes, long enough to make a point, then backed down the road and disappeared into the trees. Jake checked the trail cams the next morning. Sure enough, footage showed two figures, one taking pictures of the porch, the mailbox, the old shed out back. We weren't dealing with just one troublemaker anymore. That same afternoon, Deputy Lewis came by again, looking more tired than ever, his uniform creased and his jaw set. He pulled me aside and said, "Just so you know, Karen's out on bail. Her lawyer's making a lot of noise, and the HOA board's called an emergency vote tonight about the North Shore. They're trying to rezone, push you out with paperwork this time. I swear, I felt the ground tilt under my boots. All that fighting, just for them to try another angle. But Jake clapped me on the back, told me, "We're not out of bullets yet. Paper cuts hurt more than punches." So we scrambled, pulled out every scrap of evidence. The old boundary agreement my uncle signed with the county back in '83, the deed copies, the stack of fake violation notices Karen had left in my mailbox. Tyler was already setting up more trail cams. Mike was adding motion lights out by the lake, and I was on the phone with the county clerk before I'd even had my coffee. We made it to the courthouse, with maybe 20 minutes to spare before closing. I slammed the injunction paperwork on the counter and told the clerk, "They're trying to steal my land." I'm freezing the motion. She took one look at Deputy Lewis's signature, nodded, and said, "You're covered. For now." For now. That's always how it is, isn't it? When we walked out, rain started up again, soft at first, then harder. Like the valley itself was trying to wash the trouble away. But right there in the parking lot, Karen was waiting, fresh out of holding, standing in the drizzle with her suit pressed sharp as ever. 2 smug board members flanking her. She flashed that same old smile, cool as ice, and said, "Enjoy your little victory, Mr. Davis. The community always wins in the end." Before I could answer, Lewis pulled up, caught her breaking the no-contact order, slapped cuffs on her again right there in front of God and the squirrels. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her, but then I remembered. Every night she made us look over our shoulders, every fake notice nailed to my fence. You'd think that'd be the finish line, right? But later that night, Jake found another envelope, different. Handwriting, tucked under the truck wiper. "She's not the only one," it said. "Board meets at midnight." And sure enough, around 1 a.m., we caught a pair of flashlights skirting the edge of the lake, trying to measure the land by moonlight. Tyler snapped their picture, good evidence for the county, and another reason not to sleep easy. Funny thing about standing your ground, the moment you do, folks come out of the woodwork, some to cheer, some to scheme. Next morning, as we sat on the porch, Bruno wagging at my feet and the sunlight trying to break through the clouds, a small white pickup, with the county logo rolled up, out hopped a kid barely old enough to shave, clipboard shaking in his hands. "Just here for a routine zoning check," he said, eyes darting to the Harleys and the muddy sign by the fence. We showed him the paperwork. He nodded, took a few pictures, then told us, "You're clear. But there's a lot of complaints coming from the HOA. 32 in the last 6 months." We laughed, but not because it was funny. And through it all, Karen kept stirring the pot online, posting alerts about dangerous bikers and criminal activity, trying to turn the whole valley against us. Some folks bought it, some didn't. But the real twist came that night, when a battered sedan rolled up at the edge of the property and a woman stepped out, nervous, glancing over her shoulder. "I'm Emily," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Karen's sister." She looked nothing like her, but the fear in her eyes was familiar. Karen wasn't working alone. "There's a group on the board. They wanted your land for a lake expansion. She just took it too far. But the others are still pushing. You need to watch your back." She left as quick as she'd come, her tail lights swallowed by the pines. Jake let out a low whistle. Tyler muttered something about the snakes in the grass, and I just sat there feeling the weight of it all settle heavy on my shoulders. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Sometimes the storm doesn't pass. You just get stronger standing in the rain. Maybe the whole fight wasn't just about a cabin or a patch of land. Maybe it was about drawing a line, the kind nobody can cross unless they're ready for a battle. And out here in Pinewood Valley, family stands together, even when the neighbors try to turn the whole world upside down. So, tell me, have you ever had to defend what was yours against folks who just wouldn't quit? Because in a place like this, peace is earned, not given. And some nights, the only way you keep it is by refusing to back down, no matter how many storms come rolling through. Where do you draw your line? Let me know below, because I have a feeling this kind of story is just getting started.